Hey folks, Rich Key here with Wilson Logistics Safety, and I'm joined with the Missouri State Highway Patrol. Folks, thank you for being here today. If you don't care, real quick, could you introduce yourself?
I'm Chief Commercial Vehicle Officer Michelle Horn. I work out of Joplin Way Station and I'm assigned to Springfield.
I'm Sergeant Eddie Walker here in Troop D, Springfield area, assigned to our Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Trooper Zone, Zone 18.
Okay, well, Michelle and Eddie, thank you for being here so much. We thank you. Folks, before we get started with some questions, we wanted to go ahead and break down some barriers. So the very first barrier that we just wanted to break down, a lot of times in our industry we hear, it's kind of like the officer against our industry. But as three safety professionals sitting here, we know that's not the case, correct?
Exactly.
Our number one goal is the preservation of life. And here at Wilson Logistics, folks, we are extremely dedicated to that. We value our drivers. That's our top priority, is getting our drivers home safe. And we know that that's your priority as well, and as well as the motoring public. So I wanted to invite you guys here to just talk about some of the things that we're seeing in the industry, some of the things that we as a carrier can do better, and then maybe talk about some stuff that we can also do to help educate the general motoring public, okay? So when I'm thinking about our industry and I'm thinking about the scale house, one of the things I'm thinking about is, and this, I see you're sitting in the scale house and the driver's pulling up. What, as a driver, can we do to ensure we have a good, clean inspection and we're doing everything that you want us to be doing?
The most important thing for a driver or for the industry for safety to teach would be a good pre-trip inspection. Getting out, actually looking after the vehicle, not just before you start the shift, but if you stop to run in and get fuel. There's a lot of instances where other drivers kind of want to joke with another driver, and so it's always a good thing to do a quick once over even after fueling or stopping in to use the restroom or something like that, just to make sure that everything's in place and ready to roll.
Okay, so and I would guess something else I would say on roadside inspections.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of scale house, I mean, are there any red flag things that we're seeing that would prompt you to pull a driver over?
I just really want to reiterate what Michelle said. The pre-trip inspection is the driver's best chance at catching anything that they should catch before getting an unsafe vehicle on the road. As far as trends we're seeing, when the cell phone ban initially came down for commercial motor vehicle drivers, that first year or two, I think the fine amounts got around to both the carriers and the drivers, and a lot of drivers, you rarely saw a driver on the phone for those first few years.
Yeah.
Here within the last year, we've been getting a lot of calls. I've been stopping a lot of drivers that are on their phone, but a lot of citizens are calling in within the last 6 months to a year. Drivers, especially at night, it's rarely apparent, but watching videos or movies on their iPad or iPhone, rolling down the road. So obviously that's something that a driver can keep from doing. That's on them. But we're seeing an uptick in those types of violations.
And let me ask you, I don't know if you really know the statistics on this, but do we have an idea how many crashes might be attributed to distracted driving with with things such as cell phones?
I'd say it's much higher than actually what gets documented, just because it's so hard to prove. Whether or not we've got something that keys us in to ask to look at their cell phone or anything of that nature. Usually we don't just go in asking, says, hey, let me look at your phone, and were you on the phone or anything like that. Now, if we've got a witness that says that the driver was all over the road or something like that, that may be a key. Hey, I need to ask. You mind if I look at your phone or tablet, whatever? But I would say it's much higher than what gets documented.
Folks, it's a very important to just remember that the time that you're taking to read that text or try to make a call that's illegal to do, that's that time that you can have that braking distance as someone in front of you slams on the brakes.
Exactly.
So no text is worth anyone's life.
And that's the thing. I tell a lot of folks that, they want to downplay a violation and or even out of service violation, that, oh, it's not that big a deal. Can't you just overlook that or whatever? And it's one of those, unfortunately, that it's not a big deal until it's a big deal.
Yep.
And you know, you don't want to be on the bad end of a post crash with a fatal, and it's something that was preventable for sure.
Absolutely. So with that being said, I want to kind of lead into that as far as you said about out of service inspections. So talking a little bit more about inspections, what is the most what inspections are we seeing right now that are most out of service inspections and just regular violations that we're seeing?
As far as, you know, probably the last decade, out of service violations, brakes is leads in the out of service violations. Lighting and non out of service, you know, obviously there's a lot of lights on a truck. The front, you know, marker lights, ID lights, front and rear. You know, you add the trailer on there and you got even more lights, but that's one of the probably the most non out of service items. And I tell drivers, you know, when I get a chance to educate them, it's obviously you can't check push rod travel and things like that by yourself because, you know, there's just no way. But when you're doing your walk around, if you will, and I do this when I'm doing an inspection, if you get on the other side and you look over at the brake drum and you see a gap between the lining and the drum, if there's a significant gap, you know that more than likely it's out of service. So you start getting 18th of an inch, or an eighth of an inch, I'm sorry, then that more than likely that brake's out of service. So if you did that with every one of those, you may not know what your push rod travel is, but you're going to know that yeah, we're starting to I need to take this into the mechanics and get it looked at.
Yeah, and you know what's really funny to me is if it's at that level, it just didn't get there today.
Exactly.
And that's what you go back, Michelle was talking about the pre-trip inspection. Mm-hmm. So if it's there, you should have caught it yesterday.
Yeah.
Today was the day we should have been getting it fixed, right? Yeah. So
the other violation that we see a lot at the scale house is inner wheel seals seeping or leaking. We can't determine that roadside, but if it has oil or grease, it's not supposed to have that in the inner wheel seal portion. So that is a violation. It's not out of service till it leaks into the drum and into the linings, but it is a violation to where drivers need to check and make sure there's nothing coming out, visually inspect to make sure there's no grease on those linings as well.
Yeah, that's a good one too. If your brakes aren't operating properly, you can't stop,
Can't
right?
stop, yeah.
So do you guys have any suggestions or anything you want to discuss about the new ELD mandate? I guess one question I had written down was, are we still seeing a lot of carriers who are not compliant?
Most of them are still running the AOBRD system. They're allowed to do that until December. So most of them are still using that old technology, that old software. They're going to have to make that change in December, but majority of the people we stop are still running on the AOBRD system instead of ELD.
Okay. And the reason I guess I was asking that was because I always think in my head, people waiting to the last minute to get compliant, mm-hmm. What kind of an influx are we going to have in our industry, and what are you guys going to see in December? So
I would say it'd probably be the same we saw when the ELD rule went into effect. We had a huge amount. They weren't working right. They were having malfunctions. It wasn't downloading right. Because everybody was trying to join in on that system at the last minute. And so the more prepared you are, the more you know about the device, the better off you're going to be.
Absolutely, because I had heard at a conference that there was, I just assumed there was a handful of different units, but I had heard that there was so many different variations of ELDs, and you guys don't know every single, you didn't get trained on every single one, right?
No.
That's just that's one reason why I personally, I like transferring them. I usually do not look at it on the screen because there are so many different types of devices, and you know, finding information on one brand maybe here or it may be on. If I have you actually transfer it upload it to eRods, doesn't matter the device, it's going to look the same, and so it's just much faster for me, and I can get your driver on down the road faster if I am able to transfer it because it's all uniform.
Yeah, absolutely. So we encourage our drivers and folks watching this video, if you need more education, we've got information in your books, actually in your cab card books, in your truck. Our compliance team can help you out, but make sure that you're informed. So when you do show up to the scale house or roadside and the officer is there to do their job, you can help them do their job and they go on to the next truck and you can get down the road and deliver your freight safely. From the compliance standpoint or anything that we might see in the future, do you guys have anything that you'd like to address with our fleet that maybe we can help as a company help make the highway safer, or anything we can do?
Say pre-trip, that's one of the biggest things that I actually gave a safety presentation to a company at one point, and it was kind of a tag team effort. They had hired a consultant group of 5 retired truck drivers, and they had an awesome concept. They were actually, instead of a walk-around inspection for a pre-trip, they taught a driver how to do an actual complete level 1 underneath. I know that may be overkill, but it was in an attempt to raise their safety rating back up to where it could be. But that's one of the biggest factors that can help a company, is just because, again, you're looking and giving it the once over, making sure that before it ever hits the road that it's violation free, or at least close to as possible.
Yeah. Are you guys do we still see a lot of vehicles on the road? That I know as technology has came, we've got a lot of upgrades on trucks now, but are we still seeing a lot of trucks in our industry that are just extremely dangerous, that you're a high number of trucks you're putting out of service all the time because they just have no business being on the road and they have disregard for safety?
They're a lot fewer and far between. But yeah, we still have trucks where we'll do an inspection and we'll have 13, 14, 18, 20 violations on it, which is quite a bit for industry standard at this point. I would say on average, probably about 3 to 6 would be in the medium range. But yeah, we still have quite a few that we put out on a day basis out at the scale that have quite a few violations.
Well, folks, I really appreciate y'all being here. This is very, very informative and informational. Guys, listen, our goal is just to make sure that we're doing everything we can as safe as possible. And these folks, we appreciate the Highway Patrol, Missouri State Highway Patrol, for being here, but we just want to thank you for your sacrifice out on the road. And when you see a highway patrolman, go through the skid house, give them a smile and thank them for what they do. Because if you guys didn't do your job, I have a feeling that our roads would be a whole lot more dangerous, and there'd be a whole lot of people that we're getting hurt that we just don't want.
And just as you opened up with, Rich, it truly is a team effort. I know sometimes it may not seem like that, and hopefully it does, because it takes everyone, and the drivers are just as important, the good drivers especially, to highway safety. I like to start off an inspection just giving the driver an upfront, this is the level of inspection I'm going to do, and type, I'm just going to do driver only, and I also try to set them at ease. You didn't do anything wrong. I just stopped you merely to do a random inspection, and kind of give them lowdown on what to expect. But I've got a lot of family that drive trucks or we're in the trucking industry, and I really, most of us, all of us, really, it is a sincere, heartfelt. It is a team effort. So, for what that's worth.
Yeah, well, that means a lot, and we thank you for all you do. And at Wilson Logistics, we're going to do our very best, and we're committed to safety, and we won't stand for anything else but just getting our loads there safe and on time. And thank you again for all you do. Folks, be safe out there. Thank you to the fleet, and we'll see you on the road.